Oh, no need for a pacifier. Kenny is hanging out at the crib, though.
Ah.
Yeah, I am, you guys. I tell you what, I am elated. We've been wanting to do this for over 20 years, and Jim Pydro, my now retired photog, was working on this for like 5, and so Mother Nature and the Too Much Waves this day and Too Much Waves that day. So here we are. This is amazing. First television broadcast live that's ever been done here. You said radio.
There was a radio broadcast
but
live.
for television.
For TV, you're the first.
You saw it here first. Okay, so Brenda, now we're up top here. This is when the crib was being built back in the day. This is where the crew stayed, correct?
Absolutely. So this crib is also called crib number 3 because it was one of 3 cribs in a series that went back to shore. And they were digging from both ends of the tunnels at the same time, so they would all meet, and they would have to get within 2 to 4 inches of exact, using plumb lines and the technology of the early 1900s to make it work.
So this is number 3, so there was a 1,
and a
2,
and
then
we're number
finally 3.
There's about 50 men living on this crib, as well as each of the others during construction, and they would work in shifts, working in basically 8-hour shifts, but because the tunnels were under air pressure, they could only work for a couple hours at a time before they had to come back to the surface.
And we're going to show some historical pictures of that. Now, what was said, but at the time they really didn't understand air pressure, so the mules they used to help them, and some of the men they used, they lost their lives, didn't
Absolutely. So what would happen is after, they didn't really understand the bends like we do today, and when the men would come up, they would just double over in pain, which we know what that was the cause. And some men actually died from that, and they would always, the mule, to bring the carts of soil from the head where they were digging back to the be lifted up in the elevator, then disposed of out in the lake. Those mules would all eventually die too, and there was stories in the paper, and they ran out of mules, and so they had to start using donkeys.
They ran out of mules because they lost so many, then started using donkeys. Because it makes sense, because if you're digging all of this soil out, you got to get it back to shore some kind of way, right?
Well, actually, they would just take it a minimum of 100 feet away from the crib and just side cast it into the lake. And, you know, we know more about water quality now, but they weren't bringing water in from the lake at that time, so it would be natural soil, so it wouldn't have any impact anyway. Another interesting little fact is this crib, as well as the others, to help build them and hold them in place, they had barged over stones from Kelly's Island.
Really?
And that's a really popular destination now where you can see where they used to quarry, so some of the stones that were quarried there are still here in Lake Erie.
That's amazing.
And you'd mentioned the females.
Yeah, there was a female crib keeper.
So on crib number 1, a lady and a husband got married, and she was able to stay out on crib number 1 for pretty much the first year of their life together.
What a honeymoon.
What a honeymoon. I don't know what they did after that. But in terms of crib 3, the Holsworth family, it was a dad, and then eventually his 3 sons came to work here, and they worked in shifts. They worked the crib from 1904 until the 1940s, and 2 of them, they didn't die on the crib, but they died as crib keepers, and then another series of 3 or 4 men took over that caretaking to keep themselves entertained. Books, gardens, fishing.
Yeah, they make gardens and everything. And Lamont, we're going to end with them showing the view of Cleveland, and then they had it didn't necessarily look like that back in the day, but that was the view they had. Fishing, gardens, everything they could to keep themselves occupied. So cool, so neat, you guys. And again, in 1904, this was the first one in the United States of America. So another reason Cleveland should be proud and happy. Now we're going to go up top to give you guys even a cooler view of the 5 Mile Crib. Back to you guys in the studio. Thank you, Brenda.
That is so cool. Cool stuff.
Beautiful.
5 miles away. Never done on television ever.
That's what we do here.
That's right.
Amazing stuff.